There is a number powerful enough to shake the marketing industry, corporate America, and the entire economic landscape of the United States. $1.7 trillion. That is the annual spending power of Black Americans, a figure so massive it surpasses the GDP of several developed nations. But what shocks economists most is not the size of the number. It's the speed. Black consumer spending is rising faster, stronger, and more culturally influential than any other demographic in the country. The real story begins when you recognize a truth that few openly say. Black Americans are not just strong consumers, they are the creators of cultural demand. What they wear, listen to, watch, use, and embrace often becomes the blueprint for the rest of the nation. From music and fashion to entertainment and lifestyle, Black culture drives the heartbeat of modern America. This incredible spending power is deeply rooted in history and identity. For generations, when opportunities were limited and self-expression was constrained, consumption became a form of affirmation, a statement of identity, pride, and visibility. A pair of sneakers, a jacket, a car brand, a hairstyle. These were never just purchases. They were declarations. I'm here, I matter, this is who I am. And when culture becomes the engine of the market, all eyes inevitably turn toward the Black community. Hip-hop dominates Billboard. Streetwear becomes global fashion. The biggest TikTok trends often originate from Black creators. Major sports leagues are shaped by Black athletes. Hollywood sees revenue spikes when Black talent and stories take center stage. The beauty industry has exploded with products inspired by Black needs and aesthetics. When Black America embraces something, the rest of the country quickly follows. And when the country follows, spending multiplies. This is why so many industries quietly depend on Black consumers. Sneakers, beauty products, personal care, entertainment, electronics, fast food. Some sectors rely so heavily on Black spending that a cultural shift within the community can instantly reshape national sales trends. A single advertisement with the wrong tone, a brand misunderstanding the culture, or a moment of perceived disrespect can trigger a soft boycott, subtle but extremely powerful. Market analysts now agree. $1.7 trillion is not just spending. It is influence. It is cultural gravity. It is economic power. And this is where our journey begins, uncovering how Black buying power is not just affecting the economy, but transforming the very structure of the United States. To understand why the $1.7 trillion spending power is so influential, we need to look beyond the numbers and examine how Black Americans spend. Not through spreadsheets, but through psychology, culture, and the values shaped across generations. Spending is never just economic behavior. It is a reflection of a community's story, its struggles, its aspirations, its identity, and the wounds it carries quietly. For Black Americans, consumption has never been simply about purchasing goods. It is intertwined with a history of restriction, a fight for visibility, and a desire to be recognized in a society that has often overlooked them. Even when the average income is lower compared to some groups, Black Americans still spend more in key sectors. This has forced researchers to rethink traditional economic models, because Black consumers do not behave according to the old logic of cheapest or most essential. They spend based on value, symbolism, and community. In many Black households, dressing well, looking sharp, and owning meaningful items are expressions of dignity. It is a direct response to an era when they were judged harshly, doubted, or excluded from opportunities. Products that reinforce confidence, presence, and identity often become the things they are willing to invest in, not out of vanity, but out of affirmation. Sneakers, jewelry, hair care, beauty, fashion, these are not just consumer goods. They carry a deeper narrative. They reflect generations rising above invisible barriers, reclaiming the freedom of self-expression that their ancestors never had, and protecting a sense of pride in a world where they have often had to fight to be seen. Black spending is also shaped heavily by popular culture, a culture they themselves create. When a rapper wears a pair of sneakers, sales can skyrocket within days. When a Black influencer starts a new trend online, it can ripple across the entire country. Brands don't just sell products to Black consumers. they tap into the cultural heartbeat that influences the rest of America. This is why industries like streetwear, beauty for darker skin tones, electronics, hair care, entertainment, and digital media can shift dramatically when Black consumers shift their tastes. A subtle change in preference can push entire sectors toward reinvention. The brands that understand this always win. Nike, Adidas, Beats, Netflix, Fenty, Popeyes, Spotify, all built campaigns and products that resonated deeply within Black culture. But what most corporations don't anticipate is that Black consumers have an exceptionally sharp cultural radar. They can sense instantly whether a brand genuinely respects them or is merely faking it for profit. That sensitivity fuels one of the most powerful forces in modern marketing, the soft boycott. No protests, no banners, no trending hashtags, just silence. A quiet shift away from a brand toward another one. And the sales numbers tell the story. This is why 3 simple words terrify major corporations. The vibe is off. If an ad touches the wrong historical nerve, misrepresents the culture, or feels disrespectful, even unintentionally, the response can be immediate and costly. Another phenomenon unique to the Black consumer landscape is the positive herd effect. When a trend is embraced by the community, it spreads rapidly, creating waves of high-volume spending. But if the community rejects a brand, the rejection spreads just as fast, and the impact is just as powerful. What surprises economists isn't how much Black Americans spend, but how their spending has the power to move the entire market. From blockbuster movies to high-end sneakers, from fast food to digital entertainment, from beauty brands to new tech apps, any industry influenced by culture is influenced by Black America. In a country where companies fight fiercely for market share, understanding where the money flows is everything. And in the United States, a significant part of that flow begins with the Black community, with the stories they tell, the music they amplify, the styles they create, and the products that make them feel proud. But behind the 1.7 trillion lies something even more fascinating. This isn't just an economic force. It is a cultural current, a gravitational pull that pushes corporations to rewrite strategies, studios to adjust narratives, advertisers to change their tone, and media platforms to recalibrate their algorithms. To understand the future of America's economy, you must understand who drives its culture. And in many cases, that cultural engine is Black America. If the $1.7 trillion in spending power is the engine, then culture is the fuel that makes that engine run at full force. No group in America shapes culture as powerfully, as rapidly, or as widely as Black Americans. And what most people don't realize is this: that cultural influence generates massive financial currents, touching every major industry in the nation. We live in an era where culture is no longer just music, fashion, or entertainment. Culture is money. Culture is capital. Culture is a force capable of shifting the behavior of millions. When culture moves, the market follows. And in this game, Black America often sits at the center of gravity. A hip-hop beat born in a small Atlanta studio can sweep across the entire country in days. A dance created by a Black teenager on TikTok can become a global phenomenon within hours. A film featuring Black leads can open the door to billion-dollar opportunities for entire studios. These are not isolated incidents. They are patterns in a cultural economy powered by influence. Brands understand this perfectly. It's no coincidence that the most successful advertising campaigns of the last decade feature imagery, rhythms, or storytelling rooted in Black culture. They know that when Black Americans embrace a product, the momentum ripples outward, touching audiences far beyond the original community. Black consumers don't just adopt trends, they ignite them. The fashion industry is a clear example. Items once considered street accessories are now high-fashion essentials. Designers like Virgil Abloh and rising Black creators have reshaped the visual language of modern style. Once that language is accepted, billions of dollars begin to move, first through the community, then across the world. In music, the pattern is even more dramatic. Hip-hop is no longer a fringe genre. It dominates with over 40% of the entire market share. And with that dominance comes a halo effect. Headphones, apparel, cars, drinks, lifestyle branding, everything tied to the sound of the culture benefits. When a black artist appears in a commercial, engagement spikes instantly. For many companies, this isn't simply marketing, it's survival. But cultural influence doesn't just come from celebrities. It comes from everyday life, from women sharing beauty routines, teenagers showing their outfit of the day, families recording joyful moments, kids dancing to the newest tracks. Every one of those moments feeds into a cultural ecosystem where small actions can become nationwide waves. Economists call this the cultural multiplier, the idea that a trend beloved by Black consumers does not stay within the community. It expands, accelerates, and multiplies its value as other groups adopt it. Nearly every major trend in streetwear, beverages, entertainment, digital media, and lifestyle apps follows this pattern. And once Black consumers choose a brand, loyalty can be incredibly strong. But when that trust is broken, the exit is just as swift. This is why corporations invest heavily in cultural advisors, community feedback, and tone-sensitive messaging. They're not afraid of bad press. They're afraid of losing the cultural trust that fuels billions of dollars in sales. Another overlooked truth is this: Black Americans often buy emotionally, not mechanically. If a product makes them feel respected, represented, or connected, they will support it wholeheartedly. If a brand speaks to their identity, many see that not as purchasing, but as investing in a reflection of themselves. And that emotional alignment shapes the entire market. Because in a modern economy where branding is built on feelings rather than functions, the group that controls the emotional narrative controls the spending narrative. For decades, American economics operated under an old assumption. That power belonged to those who were richest or largest in population size. But today, power belongs to those who shape what the culture desires. And Black America has become the leading voice in that conversation. This is why every major company must now ask a single question before launching anything. How will Black America respond? This is not just a social question. It is an economic one, and sometimes a critical one for survival. Because when culture becomes currency, those who shape culture also shape the future.